of the responses that we received was hold the candidate in charge accountable, give him or her jail time, no BS business. I totally agree with this response. I feel like as a leader, you should be held accountable and you should be responsible for your supporters, whether they were or were not the catalysts behind the incidents that occurred over the last 2 days. They still should be held accountable for the actions of their
PNG
supporters.
is going backwards, not forwards. It's not the country, but the people's attitudes that need to change. End of quote. I completely agree with this. I believe that we didn't fight for independence. Because it was handed to us, we've been waiting for and wanting handouts ever since. This attitude that we have is deeply rooted in our culture and our customs. Whether it be good or bad, it's a way of life. And it cultivates the type of environment that we want to live in. If that so-called attitude breeds corruption and greed, then so be it. That's the type of environment that you will be living in, or we will be living in. And that's why we are going backwards. I saw this quote the other day that said, if you're emotionally attached to your tribe, religion, or political leaning to the point that the truth and justice become secondary considerations, your education is useless. Your exposure is useless. You cannot reason beyond petty sentiments. You are a liability to mankind, and you are a liability to Papua New Guinea. In PNG, your political stance is something that you identify with so much so that it validates you going out onto the street and harming someone. I think that's why PNG is appropriately termed the land of the unexpected.
So, one user responded, there should be security measures taken to ensure that there are no supporters near the counting sites. Allowing supporters to be there makes disputes unavoidable and threatens the safety of the public. The incident that happened today was a result of a leading candidate's supporters forcing counting officials to stop counting in order for said candidates to win. A dispute then arose when supporters from a different candidate intervened. I agree with this statement 75% in the sense that, yes, there should be very, very tough security measures taken to protect counting areas and to protect all the officials that are there carrying out counting, making sure that supporters aren't setting up camp outside, that there isn't too many people there because crowds allow for opportunists, and when opportunists come around, things can go south very quickly. The only reason I said I 75% agree with this is because 25% I feel that there should be people from certain candidates that should be there. And when I say this, I mean, for example, scrutineers. Scrutineers should be present at counting locations for the sake of transparency and accountability. It's the only way that we can ensure that an election is free and fair. And the 75% is how we make sure that it is safe. And so, yes, strict measures need to be taken to protect counting areas and to keep unnecessary people out. But at the same time, there's certain people that need to be there. Scrutineers are part of that group of people, and we should allow for them to do their jobs as well.
Hey guys, so someone responded by saying that in the 21st century, to see unsettled supporters use that level of violence, it was painfully disappointing and gross to say the least. And my response to that would be, this sort of thing isn't new. We've seen in our country, people that, go out and use bush knives to terrorize people and injure people. And I think as a people we have failed. This sort of thing has happened, and I think we've turned a blind eye to it most of the time. And now it's right in our face. It's happened in the nation's capital, and this is where it stops. I feel for everyone around the country that's gone through this sort of thing. I feel like I've failed those people because I've never spoken about this thing, and I knew it was happening. So firstly, my response to those people that have gone through this would be sorry. And my response to the people who are going against this sort of thing now is that not to stop. Don't stop doing this. We have to go against it. We have to save our people from this sort of inhumane treatment. This is just a terrible event, and this is the sort of event that will spark something that can change forever. Yesterday's unresolved issues are tomorrow's problems. we have to address them. We have to make sure that our children don't have to go through this. We have to make sure that when we are older, we can say that we have done something to stop this sort of violence in the country. And the only way to do that is to talk about it. We have to make sure our law enforcement, comes down hard on this sort of thing, so people are fearful of doing this. But the people that did this on the weekend did it with the understanding that they weren't going to be held accountable, and that is wrong. We have to be holding these people accountable, and we ourselves have to feel accountable when something like this happens. As a people, we have to come together now. As people from everywhere, not just people of NTD. It has to be a whole thing. Everyone from each part of the country has to come strong against this, because if we neglect one part, we're not being inclusive. This happens, we have to accept it, move on, and deal with it. Thank you.
One of the responses shared was animalistic behavior. Now, we humans are mammals, but our ability to reason is what holds us separate from animals. The massacre that happened on Sunday was highly unanticipated for, especially to be happening in the heart of the city. The reaction of the frustrated supporters, as I would like to describe, were wild, irrational, insensitive, brutal, cruel, and overall inhumane. They impulsively acted out of anger, and that resulted in the loss of innocent lives. And in my opinion, such behavior should be condemned, as it is very far from how a rational human being with the ability to reason should act or conduct themselves.
So this comment reads, the incident at VC reflects the leadership PNG has. Was it just me, or were there 590 Tramontinas in the brand new video? So firstly, regarding the 590s or the bush knives, if you have seen the videos or screenshots of the videos that have been circulating around social media, you would have noticed that the alleged bush knives that were used at the incident at VC appeared to be new. At least that's according to the video, so that's as far as I can comment on that. Regarding the incident that transpired at VC and the type of leadership that PNG has, the first thing that comes to mind is that with great power comes great responsibility. So where do you get that power? Where do leaders get that power? That power comes from the people. And when a leader is given that power, it is now up to that individual as a leader to decide whether they're going to use it for good or whether they are going to abuse it. Because leaders are individuals with substantial standing that is enough to either directly or indirectly influence the actions of their followers. So how leaders conduct themselves and their affairs, whether public or private, it will always reflect through the actions of the followers or the supporters. And speaking of supporters, it just brings me to one last thing, and that's individuals. Individuals as a person and individuals in the greater collective. So lastly, individuals have the ability to reason, to discern right from wrong. What one should seek for when appointing a new leader is someone who takes into consideration the needs of the greater good, of the collective. Because at the end of the day, a leader is appointed to lead Papua New Guinea and not just a part of it. So these are basically my thoughts encapsulated into a short 3-minute video. I have a lot more to say, but that is for another time.
Someone commented and said that they're very sad to see where our country is heading and that they're very angry with those supporters. I honestly couldn't agree more with you, because it is sad to see where our country is heading and what we've become of. It's disheartening to learn of the events that took place, and it's scary. But what frightens me the most is that there are other stories that have not surfaced. So as we head into these unprecedented times, we have to be vigilant and cautious of the decisions that we make, especially during this time of the election. So we have to understand the whole process so we can make the right informed decisions.
So, in response to the story, one of the comments was that Vagrancy Act needs to be enforced with four exclamation points. But my thoughts are, is vagrancy really a long-term solution for it all? I mean, look, urban drift is partially caused by a deeper feeling that there isn't equal opportunity for everyone to live their happiest and best lives. Look, rather than vagrancy, look, what can be done instead to provide equal opportunities for everyone everywhere, you know? I mean, if our government can answer and act upon that, I believe that'll be a much better long-term solution to some of the issues being faced.
Now, someone commented and said, all those bush people camping around the counting venues need to pack up and go home. Now, I agree with this comment because they can actually hide weapons there in those camps and then use them to create the chaos we've been seeing in the city. But more because the scrutiny is already there doing their jobs in the counting center to scrutinize counting. Therefore, those people camping really have no other job being there. So I agree with this comment very much.
One of the responses that was given was, it was ugly, wanting to cry my eyes out as I threw up ugly. And well, when watching something of that sort, in my opinion, one is bound to feel a lot of things. And from this response that I just quoted, you can tell that people not only felt sad that this had to happen, but also disgusted at the sight of this act and the fact that there are people who could do something as barbaric as swinging a machete at someone with no remorse at all. And to think that all this is, well, are between people from the same country, my country. Well, all these emotions not only stem from one particular video, but rather from the underlying fact that most parts of the country cannot have a free and fair election without violence.
Vinay52 responded saying, using election reasons to portray this animalistic behavior. Someone should be held accountable. Vinay, I totally agree with you. Someone should be held accountable. Whether it be the candidates, their supporters, or even the people who are in leadership of today. Because the whole premise of law and order is to take accountability and responsibility for the actions of yourself, but also the people who you take responsibility for. Yesterday's acts showed a basic lack of respect for the people, for themselves, for their fellow Papua New Guineans, and for human life in general. These actions showed that we're basically reverting back to something worse than what we had when our ancestors would go to war. I say this because our ancestors never had the gift of what we have today, and that is education. Until we fix what is wrong with our attitude, our mindset, and our spirit, Papua New Guinea will never move forward. And that is something that the leaders who are elected in these elections should make the highest priority of.
Someone responded, stating that it has caused a lot of trauma and fear for me as a teenager. I am living in fear in my own country. I find this response very realistic because as a teenager myself, I don't think any of us are okay with the barbaric incident that occurred just outside of Visi. Let's look at it this way. If youths are the future leaders of this country, then what future and what country is there to lead when we are the ones living in fear and trauma in our very own motherland? For an incident as chaotic as this to take place in the capital city of an independent country really prompts you to ask yourself, are we really independent? And for a united nation, are we really united? Because I don't see any unity in this, and I don't think anyone does. And it's not right. No one should ever live in fear, or no one should ever be traumatized in their own country. It's not right.
Hey everyone, so we have someone who commented, quote, I call for a coup, end quote. For those not aware of what a coup is, a coup, also known as coup d'etat, is a sudden change of government through forceful and legal means. It is similar to revolution, except it is fueled and executed by people of higher political and military power. Now, would it work in PNG? That's a complex question. To answer that, we'll focus on a certain type of coup known as the civilian coup. Now, civilian coup occurs when a political leader or group mobilizes the masses to demand power. Now, in my humble and slightly uninformed opinion, I do not think this would work because of the sharp divide in ideologies, political parties, and most especially provincialism. So there would constantly be descent to the displacement of power, unless, of course, it's a dictatorship. But let's just hope that that doesn't happen. Thank you for the comment.
And I'll be responding to Shinoji underscore email 4310 with the comment, "We animals." I honestly cannot agree more with you. I believe we as civilized people are only civilized because we possess compassion and common sense. Compassion towards our own our members of our own kind. If I can think anything indecent along those lines that I could just exploit you for my own benefit, that does not make me a civilized person. And it's funny and ironic because like even animals can show more compassion for their own kind than what we can show towards one another. I really think that as civilized people, if you really want there to be change, especially in these times that we're in, you really gotta reassess what it means to be civilized.
One of the responses that we received for the IG story that we put up yesterday was, "Only my condolences to the families who didn't know they were going to lose a relative." And guys, I couldn't agree with this response more, because out of everybody that's looking for somebody to blame, they're looking for somebody to hold accountable, the reality still stands that people lost their lives. Families lost loved ones. And it's sad. It's sad that you think about it. And thinking about something like this happening in the capital city, it's shameful. It's disgraceful. Things like this don't happen. At least not among human beings. This type of behavior is animalistic. So again, from the bottom of our hearts, very heartfelt condolences to the families who lost anybody that they love during the fight. And may God be with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Nelson Koko and I am the creator and the director of the PNG Art Activism Movement. If you'd like to see more content like this one, please give us a follow. And if you liked this video, please like this video, drop a comment and share us on your Instagram stories. Thank you.